So energy generally, it's everything. It's everything. It's who we are, it's our thoughts, it's our emotions, it's our experiences. So when energy starts to get trapped somewhere within us, if we've had an experience or a heartbreak or are going through grief, those emotions can start to almost become congested within us, right? And then it's really hard to show up in life because we're still feeling all of these feelings from something that had already happened. So energy healing at its core is helping you return to yourself, is helping to open that channel in you so more energy can run through you so you can actually have a new experience and feel differently.
Hi, everyone. It is the Ego Project, and I am Lisa Heidle, and I am here with my very special guest,
Kara Laudenslager.
Hi, Kara. It's so good to have you with us today. And I say us because Cristine is here in spirit. She conflict with her schedule. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. And she is just brokenhearted. She can't join us. We are delving into energy work and how it can enhance and support our mental health well-being. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you.
Me too. I've really been looking forward to this.
Oh, good. I'm going to go ahead and read your bio. I am going to be completely transparent. I'm skipping right over your last name.
Great. Please do. I
Okay, because
always
that'll take 20 minutes of me trying to get that out of my mouth. Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay. So Kara is a Brennan Healing Science Energy practitioner and empath. She is the owner of Radically Whole, where she offers energy work and healing, massage, and workshops. She's the creator of the online course, Radical Instincts, which helps you tell the difference between, is my trauma misleading me or my gut instinct guiding me? Great question. She is most passionate about helping women return to their truest selves through energy healing. Okay, great. Now, I think that's a great way for us to jump right in. What is energy work and energy healing?
Yeah. So first of all, it's my favorite thing in the entire world. So I'm so happy we get to talk about it. So energy generally, it's everything. It's everything. It's who we are, it's our thoughts, it's our emotions, it's our experiences. So when energy starts to get trapped somewhere within us, if we've had an experience or a heartbreak or are going through grief, those emotions can start to almost become congested within us, right? And then it's really hard to show up in life because we're still feeling all of these feelings from something that had already happened. So energy healing at its core is helping you return to yourself, is helping to open that channel in you so more energy can run through you so you can actually have a new experience and feel differently. To break it down even smaller and simpler is if you imagine that your whole body is just this like garden hose. And if there's a kink or a bend in it, it's really hard for the water to actually flow through it. So that's the same thing with energy healing. When that really messed up text came through in the middle of the night and then you read it and then your sense of self was like, oh my God, I'm rejecting this. That's your energy getting that kink, that bend, that twist in it, right? So the more that can clear, the more you can actually feel free and open and like yourself.
Oh, that's a great explanation of that. I'm going to get some clarifying questions over
Yes.
to you. So we, in the therapeutic realm, we know about somatic therapy, somatic healing, where we are
Mhm.
holding, right, the trauma or the wounds in our
Yes.
body. And so through energy work, is that how you clear? That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Because especially with when we talk about something, we can mentally understand it. We can have the awareness of it. We can see this is where I behave this way and it came from this trigger. We can have all of that awareness. But where does the emotion go? We still feel the emotion, right? So for energy healing, it really helps to clear the body awareness, the body knowing of it. So it's incorporating both of them and really freeing up your body so it's not holding on to that core memory.
This is such an interesting topic because as we're moving more into the Aquarian age, if you will, and we have a better understanding that we are more than just meat suits, right? Like we are,
absolutely.
we are all of it. We're our thoughts, we're our feelings, all of these, our emotions, everything works together, mind, body, soul connection,
Yes.
if you will. And as they're recognizing that when people say energy, they're like, oh, okay, I understand about energy, but they think it's like vibes,
Right,
right?
right.
Like, I feel the person's energy, but we feel our energy.
Yes.
So, and that's your job as an energy worker, energy healer, is to help people release. Now, the question is, how do you do that?
Yeah. So there's two different ways, in person and distance. And if you're new to this, distance can be like, what type of witchcraft is that? Totally fine if you think that. But in person, it's just very light touch on the body. So I structure the sessions of forming an intention, basically like, why are you here? How do you want to feel? What do you want to let go of? What do you want to bring back into you? And then I channel that intention, that level of energy into your body. And I work with your chakras. Those are just your main energy centers. Those are the places in your body where you give and receive energy. So again, if we even just take in like, oh, your solar plexus, that's all the energy that has to do with your willpower and your sense of self. So you can imagine if you've had some pretty destructive comments made to you, your sense of self might have been impacted by that, right? So there might be some energy stored there that's really not operating at 100% capacity because it's feeling a little bit wounded. So the work is really to have the body, the mind, the spirit feel deeply safe, deeply relaxed. So any old feelings or emotions or memories can come up to the surface and finally be cleared, finally be released from you. So my only job is to be a very clear channel and a very safe presence and a very loving presence that can hold everything that you're going through and everything that you've been through. So it can finally leave you and you can start to bring in energy for how you actually want to feel. And then the distance work is done the same. It's no different. Energy is not bound, not just by our bodies, it's not bound by distance. So that's done over the phone. We talk, I'm able to connect with you and I'm able to perceive how your energy is feeling and running and still have the same result of you feeling more like yourself.
That's a really good explanation. And I've had energy clearing before, energy work done, and it was so surprising about what the person could tap into,
Yes.
and tell you about yourself that you're like, I've never told anyone that, yet they were
Right.
able to pinpoint. Now, how did you know that you had this ability, this skill, this talent, if you will?
Yeah. So I didn't realize or I didn't even know the label or label myself as an empath until maybe I was like 32. It was always just like, oh, I'm Kara. This is like I always had the feeling, even from when I was young, you don't like call someone to find out how they are. You think about them and then you can feel how they're feeling. So that was always just a way I was wired. I was always more of an old soul. But then I also went to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. I got my bachelor's degree in energy healing. So through a lot of extensive training, and also I've been doing this for a very long time now, just having the experience, nothing is a better way to hone your skills than to be doing this on a daily basis with all different types of people. So it's definitely my empathic abilities and the healing abilities have definitely become more trustworthy and way more clear of being able to perceive what's going on in someone. It's like the equivalent of you're handing me a book all about you, and my only job is to open it and read it and be the translator back to you.
Mm, that's a really great way to explain that to people because, like you said earlier, you're like, what kind of witchcraft is this? It's like,
Yeah.
no, we all are energy. So
Yes,
why wouldn't you have the ability, to tap into that for others through
absolutely.
an empathic way? That's a really great way to imagine all of this. Now, let me ask you, and if you're prepared to talk about this, for our listeners who maybe are new to this or need a primer about the chakras, can you list, because
Yeah,
there's seven, correct? Seven major ones,
correct.
right? Can you go ahead and
Yes.
kind of give a primer on that?
For sure, absolutely. So we have 7 chakras that run up our body. Again, those are our main powerhouses of where we can give and receive energy. So starting at your first chakra, that's your grounding, that's around your knees. It's your sense of survival, a lot of old, even just like old patterns, family stuff, places of origin, anything that makes you feel the most in your physical body. It's more like those 3D experiences are there. So then moving up your body into your second chakra, this is your low belly, below your belly button. This is your place of power, your instincts, place of womanhood, especially if we're just thinking about women. A lot of shame gets stored here, especially if you're a woman. That's where a lot of that shows up. Then moving up the body to your third chakra, this is your core, your solar plexus, your sense of self. This goes beyond self-confidence. This is a deep knowing of, if I look up at the stars at night, I know I'm the one who's doing the looking. It's really being able to know who you are. Then moving up further into your fourth chakra, this is your heart space in your chest. This is obviously big place for love, where you feel connected, your capacity for love, but also just it's a big storage place for grief too. And capacity for emotions, how many emotions you could possibly feel and hold within yourself. Then in your fifth chakra, your throat, this is your area of communication and also your self-expression. So again, this one goes beyond, am I speaking my truth? But it's, am I even letting myself hear my own truth in the first place? Am I letting myself feel my own expression come through? And then into your higher chakras, your sixth and seventh chakras. Your sixth chakra, if you've heard of your third eye, that's in your forehead. That's your ability to even be able to see some future for yourself, being able to feel like I know where I'm headed in more of like the unknown state. And then your highest chakra, your seventh chakra, that's the top of your head, your crown. That's your connection to something greater than you, the divine, the universe, whatever you want to call it. If you have very vivid dreams, this is generally an open place, and it's also a lot of psychic energy comes through these top 2 chakras.
Oh, those are really great and just so concise. I think that's a beautiful way. A lot of times they maybe know a couple of them, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you tick, 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 like all the way
Yeah.
up. I love that. You're like,
Again, it's
what I
my
do.
favorite thing in the world. Yeah.
It's what I do.
Yes.
And so what really led you to this? Like, I mean, there's a lot of people that have an empathic ability, and maybe they go
Yeah.
into social work, or maybe they go into
Right.
therapy, or, other, coaching. What led you specifically to do energy work?
Yeah. So again, being an old soul, I was always just drawn to this type of stuff. I was in like middle school and wanting to learn how to connect with people who crossed over, like super popular. But it was just always this feeling of like, oh, there's something more that's going on. And like we have a spirit, and that just lit me up inside. So I always wanted to go to nursing school because I just knew from a young age I want to help people. I didn't know what form it was going to take, but I just knew I wanted to help people. And looking at colleges, I went to a year of nursing school, but I also found the Barbara Brennan School of Healing and realized about halfway through regular college that this is like, I've got to follow my intuition on this. Like, I have got to do this instead because that feels the most like me. And I had never even had a healing myself. I had never experienced that. I didn't grow up in an area where healers were running around by any means, but it was just understanding that, oh my gosh, this is a way to help someone and like their soul. It's not helping one aspect of them. It's not just helping them to feel better physically. This is the full mind, body, spirit connection, and viewing how someone can be helped as a whole being. And that just made the most amount of sense to me, and it felt the most like me.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful way to illustrate listening to your intuition
Yeah.
and feeling that pull, and hearing the whispers and
Yes.
allowing it to guide you without, as you said, with the third eye,
Yeah.
the unknown, right? Not
Yes.
knowing where it was going to take you. I think that's really going to resonate with people out there listening to this that goes, how do I know if it's my trauma or my
Right.
intuition, right? And I'm going
Absolutely.
to bring this back to that question
Great.
because there's some ego work that obviously has to happen anytime you're doing something that is ethereal,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, I mean,
For
it's
sure.
not tangible. You know, if I break an arm and my doctor resets it, I can see on the x-ray that that bone has healed, right?
Yes.
So, and the way that a person knows the energy work is, you know, being
Hmm.
effective, I'm going to, how do they know?
Yeah. And that's the part where it is such a firsthand experience. Like I think we get caught in this trap of like, I need to truly understand something before it can make sense. Where it's like, why? Like, don't you want to have your own experience so you can truly form your own opinion? When you have a firsthand experience of something, that's when you truly understand it, right? And it's the same thing, like if you feel like you've had some type of shift happen around your trauma, no one can tell you like, nope, you are still the same person. If someone tells you that and you feel enraged, that means that comment doesn't hit home anymore because that's not who you are anymore. That's like
Mm.
someone telling you who you are and you knowing that's not me. It's you being able to have such a clear sense of self that you can feel in your bones that something has shifted. And it doesn't matter if it can be visibly seen, your knowing is more important than how someone's perceiving it.
Mm. Mm.
So I feel
That,
like there's like a lot just tied into the ability to know yourself and trust yourself that you are capable of change in the first place.
yeah, I think I so agree with you on that. You know, in our culture, we've been conditioned that if only we can see it, touch it, right, feel it, like that's the only real things. And I've
Yeah.
said this before, you know, on the podcast that, you know, love is not, we can see love through actions, like someone is
Yes.
treating us with respect and yeah, but we feel love.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what we feel, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, you know, we can feel anger and then we emote it,
Right.
right? And so, why could we not feel energy being released from our body?
Of course. Yeah.
Why can that not be possible? Can you talk a little bit about the ego work that you've done around being, you know, an energy healer?
Yes, for sure. So, a huge part about being an energy healing practitioner is being able to get out of the way. You have
Oh, that's
got to
all
get
ego work.
out of the way. Exactly. That's you cannot be there and be, I'm the healer. It's like, don't even tell me that word. You have got to get out of the way because there's something bigger at hand. Someone's healing is on the line. That is the most important thing that could possibly exist in that moment. So
Mhm.
for me, human woman Kara has got to step aside so this healing can be the biggest thing to take up space. So again, through experience and knowing how to be with my clients now, before I used to be so nervous going into sessions because again it was like I need to be able to help them. What happens if I don't help them? And feeling like I need to have an answer to be able to figure it out. That healing can happen. The more you get out of the way, the more healing can happen, right? So it's just a matter of the more I can show up as I am here to hold the unknown. I will be fiercely protective of your healing, but I am going into any healing session with zero preconceptions of how this thing can go down or what actually needs to be there. Because someone might even come in and think like, oh, I've been having a weird ankle pain. I don't know what it's related to. If I become so fixated on just focusing on the ankle, I might miss the fact that they've been in deep grief for 15 years. You know, there has got to be room for total space for anything to be present and to know that it's okay for anything to be present. So I just have to approach it in a completely present, open, loving state where I hold nothing but safety for the person in front of me.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Thanks. I take
And-
this work very seriously. It's like someone comes to me, it's like, you're here, like you're here, let's get into this. So
yes,
it's the more we can both just show up as like we are two spirits both trying to figure it the fuck out. Like
yeah,
that's when healing can really happen.
yeah. Well, and I think all healing work, when you're both giving it and receiving it, is about attending
Yes.
to the person with you, and and allowing yourself to be attended to. And
Yes.
that's a challenge for a lot of people, to allow themselves to be cared for, right? To receive,
Absolutely.
and then of course release. And let me ask, we're saying that it's energy healing work. Are you healing the wound, or are you releasing the energy, or both? And can you talk to what each thing means?
Yeah.
I threw a
Yeah.
lot
No,
at you there. Okay, yeah.
no, that makes sense. But I like that question because it is a matter of both. I always view healing as just a deep return to the self, like the true self. If we imagine, throw a divorce, that kind of gets like a layer put in front of you. Now throw a heartbreak, another heartbreak on top, that gets another layer. Oh, and then your house burned down. That's like these are extreme things. But all of these layers start to get piled on top of you. But underneath all of that is who you really are. Throw that one comment about not being enough, and then you start to think you're not enough, and then you start showing up as a person who isn't enough, right? When all of that stuff gets cleared away, you are still here. You have always been here, and you will always be here, despite what gets in the way. So, a lot with the energy healing is just being able to let yourself feel that wound in the safety of someone who's there just to have you feel safe and to know that it's totally okay to feel that. And then when that energy starts to release, that's when you get to have a deeper connection to yourself. So it's truly like release a lot of the energy around who you're not. So then you can feel who you actually are, because that just starts to get a little bit too compressed.
Mm.
Does that make
And
sense?
it does. And we talk a lot on the Ego Project about different therapeutic and
Mm-hmm.
spiritual and coaching modalities that are out there. And as you're speaking, it reminds me a bit of the internal family systems, where we have the parts in us and these parts are
Mm-hmm.
wounded. So when you're doing the energy work, how do you integrate other healing modalities with your clients? Like, do you encourage them to go to therapy? Are people that are in therapy, are they sent to you? Like, do you see some overlaps between them?
Oh, absolutely. And especially when it comes, I feel like, to your own well-being, I always say throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. Like if you're really just trying to feel like
Yeah,
yourself, do what you need to in order to get to that place.
yeah,
Um, I see so many clients who are also in therapy because again, it's so important to be able to have the language and the knowing of where this stuff is coming from. But I notice especially empaths respond really well to
mm.
energy work. Like
Well,
everyone
that makes
benefits
sense.
from this type of work, but
Yeah.
when you're so perceptive and receptive to energy, it works faster because again, with energy and being an empath, so much information comes at you, and a lot of times it's not even through language. So sometimes therapy, it can't truly release the places where it needs to. Whereas the energy, it's like it can just work faster for really clearing your field. So you're not constantly having your cup overfilled and then feeling like you're still pouring from an empty cup. So
Speak,
empaths
sister.
respond very well. Yeah,
Yeah.
you understand that one.
Oh, I do. Yeah. So when you've been working with someone for a while, and you're the practitioner and they're
Yeah.
coming to you, is there a point that someone can start to do their own energy work? And do you do your own energy work?
Yeah. So I do a lot of meditation, and that really helps me to get my energy moving. I also receive distance energy work. I get acupuncture. I do EFT. So again, kitchen sink. A lot of times, honestly, being in nature and getting on a mountain as soon as possible, that's such a way that I clear my energy. So it's such an individual thing of what works best for you.
Mhm.
But yeah, for sure for my clients, where sometimes people think like you just have to be in like the depths of life in order to be in this extreme state to get that. I've worked with people for 10 years now and have seen them over a whole evolution of, a decade of what can happen. And you can just also be in a place of like, things are going well. I would like things to continue that way.
Yeah.
Right. And
Maintenance.
then, yes. So then
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, how does maintenance feel? And oh, yeah, let's work a little bit more on just trusting that life can go smoothly. And it's not even that hiccups won't happen in life, but I know myself well enough that I can trust myself to respond in whatever situation can possibly show up for me in life. So clients definitely, they start to become more um, aware of themselves and know what helps them to feel more like themselves. And if that means having boundaries with certain people or saying no to events or saying yes to events, they just start to realize like, oh, my energy is how I show up in every aspect of my life. So since I'm showing up differently, I know how to actually respond to events when they come up or situations or circumstances, which helps you manage your energy better.
In our culture, so many people are dissociated from their bodies. And I can imagine having energy work done on you. It completely grounds you in your body.
Yes.
And I imagine some people, that's the first time they really can feel inside of themselves, to know what they feel, to really get a sense of, oh, there's, an entire world inside of me of
Yes.
activity. Yeah, that's what a gift to give someone,
It's
truly.
it's there is like I feel so honored that I get to do this work. Truly, I'm like, oh, I got it in this lifetime. I got it right this time. I just went out the gate knowing what I had to do. But to be able to see someone like they look physically different, truly. I'm like, again, it feels like, oh, it's kind of this ethereal thing, but they physically start to look different of when someone's disassociated or not connected to their body. It's almost like they're living above their head. There's almost like nothing behind their eyes because they're not grounded there. It's probably not safe for them to be there. But when they start to feel embodied, it's truly after a session, it's like, there you are. It's so nice to meet you. Like you are there, you are present, you have a body, and there's no better high than seeing that.
Oh, I love that description because we know those people. It's like,
Yes.
they're there in front of you, but something isn't quite clicking.
Yes.
Yeah. And
And
it's
it's
not sometimes it may be a mental health
mhm,
struggle, but it's not always that. It's just, they're just not in their bodies. Yeah.
yes. And I
Yeah.
think empaths, a lot of times empaths try to do that. They
Mm.
have to try because it's a survival mechanism of like, I am so overrun with other people's stuff. I'm just going to really get out of the way and just go up for a bit. I'm going to disappear. So for empaths, if you can sometimes feel unsafe in the presence of people like that, because again, it's this very ungrounded state to be in.
Mm. We talk a lot about on the Ego Project as well as about feeling regulated in your
Mm-hmm.
body. And I truly believe that uh, people who've had big T traumas, not all people with big T traumas, but and also little T traumas, um, they've spent a lifetime dysregulated and they don't know it until they start to regulate.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're aware that,
Yes.
oh, I've been in a dysregulated state my whole life. And so they have to get to know their bodies again, get to know what that feels like to actually feel grounded and calm in their body. So I do think that, learning, like you said, throw the kitchen sink at it. And, I do believe that. And I think that you have to stick with something long enough for it to work. I
Absolutely.
think, some people, what didn't work after one session is like, well, go back. Yeah, let's give it another
Yes.
shot. Yeah. And what works for one person may not work for another. I think,
Absolutely. Yeah. We're all individuals.
yeah. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
uh, you mentioned earlier about, and you use the example of someone with a pain in their ankle, and then you realize there's 15 years of grief there. And I know, like you said, we're all individuals and everyone has a different life experience. And I'm sure their energy blockages show in different ways. Can you give some examples of how a blocked energy that needs healed and released might show itself in the body?
Yeah. So this is a one I've seen many, many, many times, and it's very specific. But for women who are in relationships for a decent amount of time, who feel more suffocated or like they don't know how to exist in the relationship, a lot of times it they get not even diagnosed with, but it comes back with abnormal mammograms. That's
Oh,
a very specific one, but it's truly the way it shows up in the energy is there's this feeling in your heart space of there's a certain amount of grief of you not being able to be here and starting to feel suffocated. And as that results in a lot of blocked energy, and that comes up differently when it manifests in the physical body. So that's one very particular one, but it's like a very common theme I've seen with women who are in certain relationships like that.
so then you would encourage them to, go to their practitioner, have the intervention, the medical intervention, and working in tandem with
Absolutely.
releasing energy.
For
Is that
sure.
how?
It's
Yeah.
yes, because again, everything starts in your energy field first. It
Mhm.
starts in your energy and then it shows up physically. So if you imagine that if you've been in something long enough, it is wearing down on your energy, right? And it's really starting to stay stored. So then it starts to slow down, it starts to show up physically in you. So the more that we can work on really identifying that energy, clearing those emotions, letting yourself actually feel how you're feeling and make space for that, truly that's when the body starts to reflect your energy.
Mhm.
A lot of energy work is even letting yourself have an internal experience and let that exist outwardly instead of having your outside life dictate how you feel internally.
Mm. Mm. Oh, that's a wow. Give me a moment.
We'll sit with that one.
Yeah, because we make the assumption that we are living from the inside out, but many times we're not. We're living from the outside in.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, that's I felt that in my own body
Yeah.
there. And I mean, and we know that saying it out loud, we're like, obviously, right? But we don't. Like we hold our emotions in, we don't speak our truth, we don't
Yes.
express our true being, our soul being in the world, and then show it to the world. We contain it.
Yes.
But if we start doing releasing that and impacting the world around us, as opposed to having it done the other way around.
Right. Right. It's truly letting yourself like press up against the life that you have around you instead of feeling like the life outside of you is compressing you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
how do I mean, if like you said, you're channeling the energy, would you call it channeling or clearing the energy?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're clearing,
It's especially if someone
sorry, go ahead.
oh no, it's like very particular channeled energy of like if you come and you say I my intention is I want to just have clarity, I want to feel clarity, then I will channel the highest form of clarity I possibly can.
Mm. How do you protect your own energy in that environment, in that, exchange?
Very grounded, extremely grounded. And it's again, I've been doing this for a while, so um I don't really get like worried about like what am I gonna take on because again, it's so much bigger than that. It's forming like the highest form of healing in one space possible. And if I'm in such a strong intention of I'm grounded, this has to do with this person's healing, and the only thing that exists here is clarity, then I'm not as susceptible to actually receiving like random stuff getting stuck to me because it's just like I have no time for that.
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I love that because that's all ego work. I keep coming back to that, you know,
Yes.
getting out of the way, and I'm a creative. At any time I'm working on my creation and progress and I'm focused on publication And I'm in the midst of trying to actually develop this creation. I'm in the way of it.
Yeah.
I'm living in the future. I'm,
Mhm.
going to, you know, block the creative process. And so it works for everything in your life, right?
Yes, definitely.
Learning, get out of the way, let it come through you. Mm,
For sure. And feeling so safe in the present moment. Because
mm.
it's like if we're in the present moment and we're already worried about the future, again, we're not in the present, we're in the future. But then if we're freaking out about like, oh, this is how I used to be, so how could I possibly write something beautiful because that one time I said this? And it's like, no, then we're still not in the present. But if we can feel safe enough, then the present moment has everything we could possibly need.
Mm. Oh, thank you. Need to feel that as well. Thank you.
We're
Let's
a
go ahead.
feelings-based thing here.
Oh, here we go. It says,
I
I
love
feel
your
all the
shirt. I love
feels.
Amen.
Which,
Preaching
by
to
the
the
way,
choir.
Own Your Stigma, the Ego Project is
Yes,
ambassadors. Check out all of their clothing line, which I
that's so
absolutely
great.
love. Okay. Make sure to put that in the description box.
Yeah,
Okay.
all the feels.
All the feels. I feel all the feels. Let's talk about your online course.
Yeah.
It's called Radical Instincts. And as you
Mhm.
said, it helps your students tell the difference between, is my trauma misleading me or my gut instinct guiding me? Can we talk a little bit about intuition and instinct? Because we've
Yes.
exchanged a little bit about that. And how do you know? Is your
Yeah.
trauma leading you or your instinct? So how do you differentiate instinct and intuition yourself?
Yeah. So I feel like they can be very intertwined and like almost mirror each other a lot of times. So I think your instincts are more just like that innate, visceral survival center in you, very old, and we can attribute it more to being like, okay, how does the situation feel? Like, no, it can feel very clear and like this is a clear yes or no on something. Am I in danger in any way? Like that's a very basic way to feel your instincts. And I think your intuition has a little bit more fluidity with it. You get to be a little bit more curious with it. It doesn't feel like this fast action decision making. It can feel more like, oh, let me be with a feeling. Do I know myself enough to be able to tell that this is pulling me gently in this direction? So I think, again, your instincts and intuition really mirror each other because it is this innate knowing that you have, but they both have this same commonality of it's a relationship that you have within you. So I'm always harping on safety, but like if we don't feel safe in ourselves, there's no chance that we're listening to our instincts or our intuition
Hmm.
ever. And we're not forming a relationship with something because if we don't trust something, then why would we ever listen to it? But if you don't form a relationship with you, there's no chance that you can trust it in the first place.
That was
So
beautifully said.
thanks.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people are like, well, I'm listening to my instincts and I feel like that person's going to hurt me. Well, sometimes you're not actually tapping into your instinct because of your wounding. Right. So we
Right.
look at like, I mean, we need to listen to our instincts. Like, I'm not getting in that elevator, right? That type of thing, right? My
Yes.
intuition, instinct saying,
Yes.
don't get in that elevator, don't go down that dark alley, don't pet that dog, because
Right.
it's
Yep.
aggravated, right? That type of thing. But sometimes we think
Yes.
that something is a threat that's not really a threat because we have energy that needs to be released or wounding that needs to be healed or trauma that needs to be addressed. So we're not
Absolutely.
actually tapping in, like you said, is it my trauma or is it actual intuition? So
For sure.
how do you know and which one it is?
Yeah. So I think in my course, Radical Instincts, like I truly live by my instincts and my intuition. It is such a fine-tuned thing in me. I know when I'm not doing it and I know when I need to, and it speaks very loudly to me. So I just want it to be able to help people. I'm like, I know how to do this. I want to be able to help people, especially women. Like you have so much power that's tied up into this. We deserve to feel empowered and like we can show up in our lives in the way that feels like the best version of ourselves, and like we can just be true to ourselves, and our choices can reflect that. But when we have traumas happen, woundings, anything like that, that really starts to get in the way of our instincts, because it's like, how did I end up in that situation? I thought this person was this and now they're not that. But also then we start to attract the same level of energy or the same level of trauma of, oh, we'll just put it in the context of dating, because who can't relate to that? But it's like, oh, no, I trusted my instincts. I'm dating this guy. He's just like all these other guys that I dated. But it's like, if that guy's also an avoidant, like your instincts are, that's your trauma misleading you, right? It's the feeling of that feels familiar. So maybe that must mean it's safe because it feels familiar, but it's like, no, that's your trauma. You have enough experiences that feel the same, that your sense of what's normal isn't accurate anymore, right? So a lot of radical instincts is even tapping into those traumas and being able to see like, wow, what actually got in the way? What got in the way, and how do I actually feel, and how do I form a new connection to myself, not the one that I had previously, because clearly it wasn't working in some way.
I think we've heard the saying, like, you'll repeat a pattern until you heal it. And what's missing in that, as many things that we're hearing, little sound bites or snippets, is that gap between something happening and healing it. Like, how do
Yes.
we bridge it? How do we actually do the healing? And so through your workshop, you work with attendees on how to figure out what is the wound, and then how to heal it. Is that what you do?
Yes, absolutely. And there's so much self-forgiveness work that has to be present, right?
Mm.
Because um it's a lot, like self-growth is hard. It's difficult.
It is. It's
Anyone who tells you
exhausting.
it's so exhausting and it's never ending, but then you keep approaching it from a different level of mind and yada yada yada, and then you're better. All the things, you start to feel more like yourself. So that stuff is wonderful, but it can be very difficult and challenging and almost daunting of, you know what, I would rather just ignore my intuition, because if I have to face that I've essentially gone against maybe my true feelings, that causes a lot of pain and a lot of feelings of like, I have to repair the relationship with myself, and I actually have to work on forgiveness of like, oh man, maybe I did know better, maybe I didn't know better, but either way there's some deep forgiveness that has to happen there.
Mm. I love that, because it's about self-forgiveness for being
Yeah.
human and
Yes.
having wounds. And so often we point to other people in judgment, right? Like, well, they did this and, they made a mistake, or, without really understanding that we're all part of this human experience. And,
Yes.
we judge people by our intention. We judge them by their behaviors, and we judge ourselves about our intentions, right? That type of
Mm.
thing. Well, when we wound ourselves and cause ourselves harm, we double down on that with shaming and, abuse to self.
Mhm.
And what it requires is to get kind and gentle and forgive ourselves, to learn how not to do that again, and to heal, right? I mean,
Yes,
that's really what it comes down to. We will continue the pattern until we heal it.
absolutely. Yeah. And that's the part that it's like, that's always hard, but it's always worth it because you get yourself out of that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's like the easiest way to, again, it's like, oh, how do you break a pattern? Respond differently. But how can you possibly respond differently if you weren't even aware in the first place that you're responding in a certain way?
Yeah.
So it's like really breaking it down to like, okay, we're gonna look at all the little baby steps that lead up to this.
Mm, that's so good. Now, and we just talked about how energy work can help people tap into their intuition.
Yeah.
So when you're working with someone, let's say they're taking, the Radical Instincts course,
Mhm.
what types of healing modalities would you encourage them to integrate? Is it energy work? Do you encourage them to maybe go talk to a therapist, a coach? Like, how do you work with your attendees?
Yeah. So it's always like what, again, if you're already in therapy, great. If you already have certain modalities to use, wonderful. This will just complement it. Again, this is being able to look at yourself and feeling like you're not alone in it. I do also have a 30-minute call where you can chat with me at any point so we can get into it and I can help you and even just tap into your energy and notice if anything is kind of holding you up. I still want to be able to be there. I want to be as hands off as possible so the healing can be in your hands, but also a little bit like, oh, please, I'm still here. I don't want you to feel alone. But one of the things in the course is I take them through EFT and teaching them that because that's such an accessible and easy way to move your energy. And if people haven't heard about that before, it's just emotional freedom technique. It's tapping on certain parts of your body, your meridian system, your energy system that helps to clear up some like blocked energy. And I take you through different prompts that help you really connect to your instincts and even start to be able to have like a little meet and greet of like, hey, I'm sorry I never believed you. Let's hold some space for that.
Yeah. Some of
Yeah.
that parts work, right? Like
Yes,
going
definitely.
inward and working with those different parts of ourselves. And when you say tapping, you're talking actually
Yes, the
tapping on the body. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, on different
Mhm.
points on the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Which
Yeah.
when you first start doing it, it's you feel odd, right? But
Yes,
the
for
more you
sure.
do it, it feels you see a difference there. Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
It's such a fast way and it's so accessible, especially in like, oh, the one, it's called the karate chop point where it's, you're like tapping one hand on the side of your hand. Like I've used that so many times when I was driving. Like you never, we feel all the feels. You never know what feeling is going to come up, but it's such an accessible way to put your focus in one area and let energy be moved at the same time.
Oh, that's really good. And we're going to make sure to have all of these links in the description so that
Oh,
people
great.
can find
Thanks.
your workshop. If you have any, modalities that you think will be pertinent, send them to me and we'll include them for our
Great. Thank you.
listeners as well. So if someone is like, well, this sounds interesting, they've piqued my interest. I'm curious, or I really feel like I have some energy that's blocked in my body. Like, what is the first thing that you would encourage them to do?
Send me an email. Send
Okay.
me an email if you have any questions.
We'll be in the
That's one
description box.
option.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's again like that's such an like an intuition based feeling of if something about this resonated with you, ding ding ding, pay attention to that because something is probably blocked in some way. Like we know ourselves best. Like we so know ourselves best if we just let ourselves be in a little bit of that knowing and a little bit of that discomfort of like, oh shit, yeah, you know what? This happened a long time ago, but I'm still feeling that way. Or, you know what? I just had this conversation and I got super triggered and I don't know where it's coming from. There's a certain level of energy that is still existing from something old that would do wonders to have that be cleared so you can actually be present and show up in a situation as yourself and be able to respond in a way that actually feels more true to you now, not true to how you used to be.
Oh, that's good.
So I think
Um,
curiosity has a lot to do with it. Letting yourself be curious of like, huh, is this me? Is this the most up-to-date version of me? Or what am I still holding on to? Or even if I don't know what am I holding on to, is there something still being stored here?
and so if someone's like, how do I know if something's stored in me? You gave the example of being triggered. It's from your experience and the feedback that you've received from clients.
Hmm.
Are there any kind of specifics in the body? So,
Yeah.
tight shoulders or, maybe chronic pain, or can
Yep.
you give some examples like where people may be holding
For
some of
sure. Huge one. It's just, I feel heavy. I feel heavy. Like, and again, that's such a body-based feeling. If you feel like no matter what I do, I cannot wake up, I'm exhausted all the time. Exhaustion is a huge one. And this is I'm a big fan of coffee. Coffee can't touch this level of exhaustion because it's like soul exhaustion, right? So much is wearing on you at all times that it is depleting you, and your body's just trying to maintain yourself, and it's having a really hard time. So exhaustion's a huge one. If your sleep is really disrupted, if you notice your anxiety gets worse when you try to go to bed, a lot of that has to do with your energy is running this like live wire fence. And when you go to sleep at night, that live wire is still running. So it's like, I can't turn off my head, cannot turn that off. That's a big one. So it's again, it can be like really specific things of like feeling wired, like you can't turn it off, or feeling really heavy in yourself, or also it's I just feel off.
Mm.
Like we all know when we don't feel like ourselves, no one else can tell you, right? So
Yeah.
if you just feel off in some way, that's a big indicator.
That was a great description, because someone's going to be out there listening going, oh, that's how I feel. And,
Yeah.
we have these tells, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're supposed to be living a very exciting, expansive existence. That's our birthright.
Yes.
That's our
Yes.
birthright. And if we're not, then we can do things to right the ship, if you will, right?
For
And to release
sure.
that, to have that. And the work that you're doing will help them get to that point. Now, and I really want to make sure the listener hears that you do these remotely as well. Like you
Oh,
said,
yes. Yeah. I have
and
clients all over the country. The distance doesn't matter. It's just over the phone. We don't need Zoom. We don't need FaceTime. As long as I hear your voice, I can connect to your energy, no problem.
okay,
And yeah, this can be done from anywhere. And then
okay.
it's nice. You can be sitting in your bed. You don't have to be in lotus position. You can just be chilling and relaxing, and it's a conversation that we get to have together.
And do you do the clearing at the time of the conversation, or do you
Yes.
do, oh, so it's very active. It's
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I do it one of two ways. We talk in the beginning, and then we can hang up and you can meditate. You can get back to responding to work emails, whatever you have to do. I go about clearing your energy, tapping in, and then at the end of our time, I call you back and I tell you everything I've picked up on and hear about your experience. Or we stay on the phone for the whole time, and it's truly dependent upon like a lot of people are like, I'm on my lunch hour, I don't have time. So it's like, okay, we'll do it and we'll connect briefly. Or we stay on the phone the whole time and I just actively take you through what I'm perceiving, and it's an open conversation and you participate as much as you want to into telling me how you're feeling. And it's beautiful to watch the integration happen because a lot of people are like, that's exactly how I'm feeling. And that's incredible. It's the birthright thing. It's like we all have a birthright and we all deserve to feel free and to feel like this life gets to be more than just survival.
Yeah, nothing to add to that. That was that is the perfect way. And it is, life is supposed to be more than just survival. Kara, this was a
Oh,
pleasure.
Lisa.
I've so enjoyed this conversation.
Me
I
too.
know.
You're wonderful. Thank you for
Oh,
talking with
thank you.
me.
Well, and I know Cristine is just going to be, like I said, brokenhearted because, as a therapist, a psychotherapist, or a
Yeah.
therapist as well as a coach, I know that she's an intuitive coach. So,
Yes.
we would love to have you back when she's able to join us.
I would love that.
I'm sure we can dig deeper into this, and Cristine would have plenty to offer and to ask and to explore with you as well. And we will share all of your information so that people
Great.
can find you. And anything that we can do to support you, just let us know.
Thank you so much. This was lovely. And I'm empath to empath. These were top-notch feelings that we got to tap into. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Okay, everyone, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to follow Kara, and all of her information will be in the description box. And you're Radically Whole Kara
Yes. Yep.
on
Radically whole
Instagram.
Kara.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I'll make sure that's in there as well so that people can find you and follow you along with you, because you give really good little helpful short videos that people can go, oh, I can do that right now.
Great. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's
Follow
very
along if
good.
you would like.
Good. All right, everyone. We will see you next time. Make sure to like and subscribe and share. So, Kara, until next time.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bye, everybody.